Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder on Monday, May 17th, 2021. And today, this is my report to flag officers regarding Selective Service Classification Warfare. Report by Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Rutluski, Army of the United States, AUS. And if you're a veteran, I believe that's where we all are. We were never left the military. We were just put in the Army of the United States. I'll have to talk about that some other time, and today is May 17th, 2021, if I didn't mention that. And so the flag officers I'm speaking of are these flag officers. Flag Officers for America. They have their own website, flagofficersforamerica.com. And here, last week on the May 16th, they put out a press release. Right? Threat to U.S. national security. Now, they'd also put something out last week, right? So what I found here was their email address, which is flagofficersforamerica@gmail.com. I said, well, that's excellent. I could send them some of the things I've been complaining about for years to various entities in the government trying to get it taken care of without any luck, and I'll send it to the flag officers. Apparently they're want to know, they're worried about what's going on too. So you can also send them a message here, right? So if you're a veteran, right, and if you've had any problems with the VA, or if you've had a problem in court and you've watched my videos and I show you all these things that are wrong in court cases, right, send it to the generals. Let's see what they'll do with it. So that's what I'm doing, and I sent them a couple of different things over the weekend, and I'm going to get ready and send them another report on this particular subject. And I got a few more subjects to do, but I'm trying to break it down into subjects and feed them to them one at a time. And but this subject affects everybody. Anybody who's 17 or older in the United States is affected by this Military Selective Service Act, because under your state's military act, right, not the federal government, but the state, like in Michigan's, it says if you're a citizen of Michigan and you're 17 to 60, you're in the militia of Michigan. Well, that puts you in the National Guard of the nation. And if you're a female and you're a member of the National Guard, then you're covered under the federal act also, although as a member of the militia of the United States, although it doesn't specifically say that you are. So, then how is the reporting being done, and the registration and so forth? And as we'll see, I believe they're not doing it properly, and I'm going to show you why. So, under the Military Selective Service Act, which shows up in two different places, I'm not really sure why, admirals and generals, but maybe you can find out, right? It shows up as Title 50 United States Code in the appendix, right? 451 at ski, and then it shows up under 50 USC Chapter 49, right? It looks like it's the same wording, but they have different numbering, how they number their sections. So whichever way you want to look at it, either 3803 or 454, persons liable for training and service. Now, this is just in part, it's a much longer section, but it said that each registrant shall be immediately liable for classification and examination, and shall, as soon as practicable following his registration, be so classified and examined, both physically and mentally, in order to determine his availability for induction for training and service in the armed forces. Well, that sounds pretty cut and dried, right? You need to register, be classified, and be examined. Shall. You're not done as the individual until those three things have been done. And all the individual is doing is going down to register. Now, as we'll find out, they're giving you a classification, right? But nobody's getting the examination. So, to go along with the act then, under Title 32 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Chapter 16, right? This is what's going to implement the Selective Service System. And then there in the definitions or so forth, it's got subsection 1630.10 where it says Class 1A, available for unrestricted military service, which is all registrants available for unrestricted military service, shall be in Class 1A. Okay. Under Class 1630.15, though, it has Class 1H. There's many, many different classes, right? But this is the one they're giving everybody, which is registrant not subject to processing for induction, right? That's what they like to put on paper to tell people. Well, it's Class 1H, registrant not subject for processing for induction because we don't have a draft right now. But what it actually says in the text is it says in Class 1H shall be placed any registrant who is not eligible for Class 1A and is not currently subject to processing for induction. Well, how would you know if you're not eligible for Class 1A unless you've been examined? Because that's all 1A is for. Are you mentally and physically capable of unrestricted military service? Yes or no? If you are, yes, then you're get put in that group. And then if you're, after that, if you're a conscientious objector or whatever the other reasons are, well, then you have an exemption. But first you have to go to, start at Class 1A. Well, they're not doing that. They're just giving everybody right off the bat Class 1H, which means you're either physically or mentally not capable of unrestricted military service. Right? So they've diminished your civil character. They're either saying you're a nut or, you're AWOL, so you're not here, so, you're not available for unrestricted military service because you ran off to the United States of America. You left the Republic and went to the democracy, and we don't have an address for you. Right? Because that's it, that's one of the other things they have to do is you have to, duty of persons required to register. You're in the military, they gave you a duty right off the bat. A person required by Selective Service law to register has the duty to complete the registration process by a method prescribed by the Director of Selective Service and to record thereon his name, date of birth, sex, Social Security, account number, current mailing address, permanent residence, telephone number, date signed, and signature if required. And submit for inspection upon request evidence of his identity to a person authorized to accept the registration information. Evidence of identity may be birth certificate, motor vehicle operator's license, student identification card, United States passport, or a similar document. And then 1633.11, assignment of a registrant to a local board. A registrant is assigned to the local board that has jurisdiction over his permanent address that he last furnished a Selective Service System prior to issuance of his induction order. Okay, so, this is something you'd have to do before you had an induction anyways. But what is the local board that you've been assigned to? What's your permanent address? And these are the things we're going to look at. It won't take very long, but, I'm going to show you the generals the evidence, and they can go do an inquiry, right? Start a border inquiry under court-martial proceedings and find out what's going on. So, Rob Ryder, I had my avatar. My email is courtofrecord@aol.com, and, there's my phone number. So, I would just want to show a couple of sections of law, but let's start with some other documents. So, hang on just a second here. Yeah, so about this Class 1H. So back in 2010, Ms. Shannon Rondeau had requested under Freedom of Information Act, right, regarding President Obama's Selective Service records. And this was part of the response, which they responded more than one time, apparently. And in our previous letter, we stated the following. The 1H status assigned to him at the time was not, strictly speaking, a classification. Let's stop there because, strictly speaking, they were supposed to be classified. That's what it said to do. But, they're saying it's not strictly speaking a classification. Selective Service has not classified registrants since the draft ended in the mid-70s. Well, that doesn't mean they're not supposed to. It means they're not doing it. They're telling you, we ain't doing it. The law says we're supposed to, but we ain't doing it. However, since that time, 1H has been assigned to everyone as a catch-all classification. It was not assigned to Mr. Obama as a result of any action on his part, and there is no related documentation. The formal description of 1H is registrant not currently subject to processing for induction or alternate service. Well, that isn't what it's said to do. All right, first it's saying it's not strictly a classification, but down here it says it's a classification. Right? It's been assigned to everyone as a catch-all classification. Well, then, strictly speaking, it's a classification. And that classification says right, that the only people placed in there are any registrant who is not eligible for Class 1A. So there's something going on there. And what else did I have of Obama's here? I got some other documents here. Hang on. This thing's going to show up. Oh, wrong one. All right, so this was an earlier letter. Papers. Okay, in response to your Freedom of Information Act inquiry emailed on May 10th seeking the Selective Service information, copies of the registration form and resultant automated file screen, whatever the hell that means. Enclosed are copies of his registration form and the resultant automated file screen. We're not going to actually give you a copy of the document. You can just see the file on the screen. Mr. Obama did indeed register with Selective Service and was assigned Selective Service number on September 4th, 1980. The 1H status, which we just read about. Okay, so, they're not telling us a lot, but they're telling us something. So this is the form that he filled out. Right, where it's got date of birth, male or female. It must be Social Security number behind the blanked out screen. Last name, first name, middle initial, current mailing address. Right, this one asks for permanent residence. And he put same as above. I don't know what this line here is for, but somebody put a line in there. Right, and it gives a phone number, the date that he did it, his signature, and this is showing that it was done apparently at the post office. But they checked the box here and said that he showed no ID. I don't know what's behind this right here. Foreign country, I guess. Anyways, permanent residence, same as above. So that's on the form. Remember that. What else was there? There's another one somebody sent me. There's another one. It's all the same form again and again. Okay. So now let's look. I got a better picture of that. Let me find that one. It's right here. So this is the automated screen they're talking about apparently. Right? And if you look on here, it's got a Social Security number or Selective Service System number, last name, but here they just have first name. They don't have a place for middle name. Well, when they had you fill the frickin' paperwork out, he had a middle name. Right? He put first name Barack, middle name Hussein. What does the government turn around and do? They just put them together, say, oh no, that's your first name. Right? So he had a current address down there and they took it off, but they didn't put a permanent address in here for him. Well, that was one of the pieces of information they had to give him according to the registration. So, according to this registrant file inquiry report, Obama didn't give a permanent address. Now, we can all, say he did or didn't based on this, what this thing shows, because he put same as above on there. But really, how do you know what your permanent address is? Because they didn't say your residence address or your mailing address or your situs address or your physical address. No, they said permanent address. Well, how do I know what my permanent address is? Right? Where's the definition for that? That's, just the stuff they do. Hang on. Okay, so we don't have a permanent address, and then they had SSAN. That's supposed to be your Social Security account number. And if you remember, he did put a telephone number, but here they put all zeros. They didn't put the number in there. Registration date says 9/4/80. Related SSN. I don't know what that is. What's this SSN number? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-digit number. Because up here it's the SSS number, which has the same style as this, but it's not showing that he has any related number. Didn't ask for anything about an SSN number. There it is. Right? Classification, 1H. SSAN indicator. Why did they put no? He's got a number up here. It should be yes. Or is there nothing behind there? And, it is no. Because they got phone indicator, they said no. So, this is you fill out a piece of paper with some information on it, but this is what they actually put in the system. This is like Stalin saying he doesn't really care who votes. What he cares about who counts the votes. So in this case, they really don't care who puts paper in. What they care about is, well, who puts the record in the computer. Right? Because according to the computer, it's got errors and omissions in it. And they said here, date of birth. What do they have here for a date? Because there was something different here. That's 9/4. What did it say in the document he filled out? Right, he's actually filling it out on July 30th, 1980. Right, that's when it was stamped. So this is the date that it should have been put in there. But if you look at the record, that's not the date it went in. So, somebody's altering the damn form, sir, ma'ams. I don't know what to tell you. This is the date it should be, have been registered in his record. But this is the day here when they're saying he did it, registration date. Something fishy going on. Okay, show you a few more things and we'll be done. Okay, just real quickly, if you were to Google Selective Service System, System of Records, or Notice of System of Records, right, you would be able to find this form that talks about, there's these various systems of records, and each one has different records in, but they all have something to do with selective service. Right? So like here's SSS 9, which is registration records. So if you wanted to get a copy of these, like myself, I didn't have to register. I fell in this weird time, born before 1960, and I didn't have to register. So, I can't do this, but right, system name, registration, compliance, verification system, registration records. If you're a vet, I'd be asking for these. I mean, if you're anybody who had to register, do whatever this says, right? It tells you where they're located, the categories of the records, authority or maintenance of the system, routine use, retrievability, safeguards, system manager address. So this is how you if you want to get a copy, what you need to do to get it. Let me find it exactly. right? Record access procedures, the agency office address to which inquiry should be addressed and the location at which an individual may present a request as to whether the RCV system contains records pertaining to himself is Director of Selective Service System, 1515 Wilson Boulevard, Arlington, Virginia. Attention, Records Manager. Now, it is necessary to furnish the following information in order to identify the individual whose records are furnished. You got to give them the full name of the individual, the Selective Service number or Social Security number, date of birth and address at the time of registration. The Selective Service number is unknown. Well, all I should have to give them is my name and my Social Security number, right? Because some of these other things you may not be so sure of, right? What's the address at the time of registration? We don't know. Because mailing address to which the reply should be mailed. So it would be much better if somebody who was in Virginia, because it sounds like you could go right there and get it, right? Just go to the frickin' office. Could, pack a lunch, leave early in the morning, go here, and don't leave till they give you your fucking records, right? And just keep going up the chain until you get a copy of your records and then send them to me and tell me what they say. But while you're there, try to get all these other records. So that's my point. They have all these different series of, what do they call them, systems of records that have to do with this registration. And, God knows how much information's in there that would be available to us, such as your pay record. I guess that's really just people that work for the SSS, so never mind that. Okay, but, nevertheless, they have all these different groups of records, right? That download this thing, look through it, and start asking for records. But you can't do it as a Freedom of Information Act. You have to do it as a Privacy Act, which means you as the person have to sign a document and send it to them. Right? Don't do it as Freedom of Information. This isn't a FOIA Act. You're not asking for somebody else's information. You're asking for your information. So you should be able to get it without anything being blanked out. Everything should be there to be seen. And then we can see what one of these stats looks like, right, from somebody else that hasn't been blanked out. Did they actually put a Social Security number back here? What about the address? How come there's no permanent address? These are things we have to get answered. And like I said, the Act itself, right, comes out of Title 50, out of, I believe this APP means appendix, or it comes out of Title 50, Chapter 49. I'm not really sure why it's in two different places, but, I've read through parts of it, and it reads word for word, so, this is the one I had gone through and highlighted a few things, so I just want to make sure I covered those real quick, right? All right, this Military Selective Service Act goes all the way back to it's tied to 1916, but I think it actually came into place like 1948. And then it went through that phase until President Ford, and he issued a executive order ending it, but saying that it was going to come back again under a new system, which is the system that President Carter put in, which is the current system we're using today. Right? And here's the registration part that, except as otherwise provided, shall be the duty of every male citizen of the United States and every other male person residing in the United States who, on the day or days fixed, on first or any subsequent registration, is between the ages of 18 and 26, to present himself for and submit to registration at time or place or places in such manner as shall be determined by proclamation of the President, rules, regulations prescribed hereunder. Okay, so all that's happened now. And here's the proclamation for registration that Carter put in, and it was later amended by Bill Clinton. And, that you're supposed to be able to go to a classified United States post office. Well, I don't know what a classified United States post office is, because all I ever see are places that say USPS. Where's the classified post office? When reporting for registration, each person shall present for inspection. This doesn't give any room that you can't, you must. You shall present for inspection reasonable evidence of his identity. After registration, each person shall keep the Selective Service System informed of his current address. Well, right, but here in this form, they said that Obama didn't show any ID. Well, then how could he register? Right, so on July 30th, they said he didn't show any ID. See, and they didn't use that date, but they're showing that in September he actually registered. Well, did he show it then, or, is it somebody else doing it for him? Yeah, there's some shady dealings going on here. No doubt. Okay, and then after registration, here's where it talks about, persons liable for training in his service, where provided that each registrant shall immediately for classification and examination, and shall, as soon as practical, following his registration, be so classified and examined, both physically and mentally, in order to determine his availability for induction for training and service in the armed forces. So it's not to be inducted, it's to see if you're available to be inducted. Are you Class 1A or not? Until all these have been done, classification can't be made. But instead of going through the motions and doing it, by the book, instead they're just giving everybody a 1H, and nobody's going down to be physically and mentally examined. Okay, no person shall be inducted into the armed forces for training and service, or shall be inducted for training in the National Security Training Corps under this title until his acceptability in all aspects, including his physical and mental fitness, has been satisfactorily determined under standards prescribed by the Secretary of Defense, provided that the minimum standards for physical acceptability established pursuant to this subsection shall not be higher than those applied to persons inducted between the ages of 18 and 26 in January 1945. Provided further that the passing requirement of the Armed Forces Qualification test shall be fixed at a percentile score of 10 points. And provided that, except in a time of war or national emergency declared by Congress, the standards and requirements fixed by the preceding two provisions may be modified by a president under such rules and regulations as he's prescribed. Well, we're under a national emergency declared by Congress right now. So they can't mess with that stuff. Right? And so you were supposed to take some test, Armed Forces Qualification. Now, this isn't the ASFAB test. Right? This is the Armed Forces Qualification test. Shall be fixed at a percentile score of 10 points. Okay, did anybody take a test where there was some percentile score of 10 points involved? I don't remember doing such a thing. Hang on here. Yeah, the Armed Forces Qualification Test covers 4 sections from the Armed Forces Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, the ASVAB. Right? It's just 4 parts of the ASVAB test. Well, you're supposed to have done that. Everybody who's registered is supposed to have done that. And be classified. Well, that ain't happening. Instead, they're just going right to 1H, making everybody a 1H. All right, and then just a few definitions, I guess, out of the Chapter 16 of the Selective Service System as found in Title, I believe this is Title 32 of the Code of Federal Regulations. Yep, Title 32 Code of Federal Regulations, Chapter 16. Right, it has to do with the Selective Service, right? We got these definitions to start with. So, classification is the exercise or power to determine claims or questions with respect to the inclusion of exemptions or deferment from training and service under the Selective Service Law. Okay? Got county. Local board of jurisdiction. The local board of jurisdiction is the local board to which a registrant is assigned and which has authority in accord with provisions of this chapter to determine his claim or to issue him an order. His local board and registrant's local board refer to the local board's board of jurisdiction. Well, who the hell is that? Anybody who's been registered ever go to a local board of jurisdiction? Of course not. Registrant is a person registered under Selective Service Law. The Selective Service Law includes the Military Selective Service Act, all rules and regulations issued thereunder, proclamations of the President pertaining to the registration of this Act. Okay, then we get into the Selective Service System organization. And you see we got a National Administration, National Appeals Board, yeah, that would all make sense. Regional Administration, staff or regional headquarters for Selective Service, that's all national. And then you got state administration, starting with the governor, and the governor is supposed to, the state director of the Selective Service of each state, subject to direction and control of the director of Selective Service, shall be in immediate charge of the state headquarters for Selective Service in his state. The state headquarters for Selective Service shall be an office of record for Selective Service operations only, and no record other than Selective Service records shall be maintained in such office. The state director of Selective Service will perform such duties as are prescribed by the director of the Selective Service They got staff, state, composition of district appeal boards, got district area boards, district appeal boards. The district appeal board shall have jurisdiction review to affirm or change any local board decision, appeal to it when, sorry about that, hang on. Okay, so as you can see, it's just a hierarchical structure, who's got control of what. And eventually you go all the way down the bottom, you got the local boards. The director of Selective Service shall divide each state into local board areas and establish local boards. Right? He shall. It's his duty. Where's the local boards? There shall be at least one local board in each county, except where the director of Selective Service establishes an inter-county board. More than one local board is established within the same geographical jurisdiction. Registrants residing in an area will be assigned among the boards as prescribed by the Director of Selective Service. The Director of Selective Service may prescribe or establish panels of local boards. Whatever. Where's the local boards? Is the MEPS station in Detroit, is that my local board? I mean, were they all combined into one? Because that's the only place I ever took a test for the military. Right? And you take the ASVAB test. If they just take the four sections out, they can say, well, you took the other test at the same time. Composition of local boards shall prescribe a number of members for the local boards. The Director of Selective Service shall assign each local board within a state a specific identifying number by which it shall be known. Such identifying number shall be assigned with numerical sequence beginning with the number 1. The local board shall have full authority to perform all acts within the jurisdiction authorized by law, to include the act acting on any claim presented to it when the claim is submitted by a registrant, the claim is transferred to it from another board, the claim is submitted or transferred to it by the director. So what's going on that we're not going to these local boards? Okay, let's look here. So every person who undertakes to render voluntary uncompensated service to the administration of the Selective Service Law shall execute an oath of office and waiver of pay before he enters upon his duties. Registration under the Selective Service Law consists of completing registration card or other method of registration prescribed by the Selective Service, and recording of the registration information furnished by the registrant in the records, the master computer file of the Selective Service System. Registration is completed when both of these actions have been accomplished. Okay, well, what if they don't match? Then what do you do? Right? Well, that's when you should go talk to somebody, but you don't have a local board to go to. The methods of registration prescribed by the director include completing a Selective Service registration card at a classified post office. Again, classified post office. What is a classified post office? Registration on the Selective Service Internet website. Telephonic registration, registration approval, federal and state government forms, registration through high school, Selective Service remainder mailback card. Well, let me look at that real quick. Hang on. Oh, before we go, duty of the person required to register. Right? We read this earlier. Person required Selective Service law to register has the duty to complete the registration process by method prescribed by Director of Selective Service and to record thereon his name, date of birth, sex, Social Security number account, SSAN. So, if they call your Social Security account number SSAN, then what is SSN, right? The thing that we believe to be our Social Security number. Is that a different number? Used for a different purpose? Current mailing address, permanent residence, telephone number, date, signed, and signature, if required, if requested. So, hang on, I want to look at one more thing here. So here's the current registration card, right? SSS Form 1M. You got your date of birth, your sex, Social Security number, right? It doesn't say SSAN, it says SSN, not Social Security account number. So then I'm asking you for your SSAN on this card. Last name, suffix, other suffix, first and middle, current mailing address, electronic mailing address, phone number, today's date, agency use, and your signature. Now on here, they are not asking for your permanent residence address. But when you go look at the card, at least, this is the way they were doing it back in the day. All right. Where did I see SSN on here? Related SSN. Right? They got it broken up this way. They have the SSN numbers having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 digits. And the SSAN, we can't see to tell what it is, but, we would think it has 9 digits. This has no permanent address. It's got a place for one in there, but there isn't a permanent address. So, it looks like Obama omitted giving his address as far as this goes. Now, in his form, back in the day, they had it where they were asking for that kind of stuff, right? Because here it is, permanent residence. They want a street number, city, state, or foreign country. Something there. I don't know what that last part is. Zip code, I guess. It's not on here. So they ask for different information on the form than they end up putting on the damn document, right? Because this is the biggest one. Where's the... They showed the Social Security number as having 10 digits. And this only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 digits. They're calling Social Security number here. But here you would say, well, that's what's behind this SSAN number, which is specifically what they called it in the frickin', SSAN, Social Security account number. So things are done intentionally incorrect. That's all I can tell you. Flag officers, right? I have to leave with you guys to figure out why that is. You all. But, notify system within 10 days of change in the following information. Name, current mailing address, or permanent residence address. Again, how do we know what it is? because you want it here, but it's not on the frickin' document that you asked for it on. Now, this form is the SS Form 2. This is from 1980. And on here, it had your permanent residence address, right? They wanted you to put it in here. Current mailing address, permanent residence address. But if you look at the form today, they're not asking for it anymore, right? There's no place to put your permanent residence address, yet it's in the act. You have to give it to them. So somebody's tampered with the forms. And if you go today to say, well, I registered and I checked to see if I was registered, you'll get this letter, right? You go online and check your registration. They'll send you a letter, memorandum for registrant. Now, it's not, right? So it's a memo. It's not certifying. It's not a certificate. It's just a memo. But it certifies officially that the below named individual is registered on the date shown in the Selective Service System as required by Section 3 of the Act, 3802, right? Which is 3802. It's not 3803. And 3803 is where it says you have to, not only do you have to register, you have to be classified and examined. So it has all your information in here that because you satisfied the MSSA by registering, you remain eligible for those programs and benefits linked to registration compliance, such as student financial aid, government employment, job training, driver's license in several states, U.S. citizenship for immigrants, for which you are otherwise qualified. Because you did 3802, right? You're still qualified. But if you don't do 3803, well, then you're not qualified. This is only saying you're qualified up through Section 3802. Right, that which was way up here. Well, it's not in that one, cheapers. Actually, it's in this one. Right, there's 3801, 3802 registration. We go through all this, and we come to 3803, and this is where it talks about each registrant shall be immediately liable for classification and examination. So you're good up through 3802, but you didn't do 3803 yet. Let's see what you're missing out on. That'd be the last part, and then we'll be done. Hang on. Okay. And if you had done everything properly, then under 3810, emergency medical care, under such rules and regulations as may be prescribed by the President, funds available to carry out the provisions of this chapter shall also be available for the payment of actual and reasonable expenses of emergency medical care, including hospitalization of registrants who suffer illness or injury, and the transportation and burial of the remains of registrants who suffered death while acting under orders issued under provisions of this chapter. But such burial and expenses shall not exceed the maximum that the Secretary of Veterans Affairs may pay under provisions of Section 2302A of Title 38 in any one case. Okay, well, because you have a duty to register, you're under the frickin', you're under an order, right? You're acting under orders. You went to register. You were ordered to register, so you did. And so all your emergency medical care is supposed to be taken care of, right? If you get sick or whatever, you go to the emergency room. Sign your name and walk out, including hospitalization, right? Got cancer, whatever it is, well, it's supposed to be taken care of. But they're not doing that. Then it goes on for, where's the next section here? And just real quick, what about the offenses and penalties? Well, shall upon conviction in any district court of the United States or competent jurisdiction be punished by imprisonment for not more than 5 years or fine of not more than $10,000 or both. Making or possession of false identification or representation. Right? You're supposed to get some kind of registration card. Assistance provided under Title 4 of the Higher Education Act of 1965, failure to register, right? Except as provided in G, any person who is required under 3802 of this title to present himself for and submit to registration under such sections and fails to do so in accordance with the proclamation issued under this section or in accordance with any rule or regulation issued under such section shall be ineligible for any form of assistance or benefit provided under Title IV of the Higher Education Act 1965. Right? You can't get your grants, loans, or work assistance. Now, you may think you're getting those if you're going to school, but they're not using your full legal name. Right? They don't have it in your full legal name. They have it in the name of a middle initial. It went through some other entity first, and so what you may have gotten for a grant, now you're getting as a loan. Right? You're paying for something you could have had for a grant if this had been properly done. I don't know that that's what they're doing exactly. I just know that if it ain't been done right, these are things that are penalties against you. And so we need to demand that it's done right. So, okay, well, that's what I had to tell the flag officers for today. All right, report to flag officers, Selective Service Classification Warfare. All right, we don't want to be 1H's, sirs and ma'ams. All right, we want to have registration, examination, classification, and have it done through the local registration board. Supposed to be one in every county. Where are they? When you find out, if you please let me know, I'll do a video on it. Okay, I'll have a great day. See you now.